Hey guys, Dutchman Games here. Today I want to talk a little bit more about the Panther Clipper. Earlier this week or last week I made a video about the Panther Clipper where I showed you guys that it's coming, and you guys have seen the videos. They're everywhere right now. And I just wanted to do a little bit more of a deep dive to actually look at what this ship can actually become and be, and how big it can become, because I am actually quite impressed with how it looks, and I think it can become quite a massive vessel. So, without further ado, let's jump right into this. All right, so in the Elite highlights, you could actually see that they were talking about the Panther Clipper and that they were noting a few things that they were thinking about when they were designing it. Some things that we really have to keep in mind is that it's not going to be fast, it's extremely big and very bulky. The handling will be very different than any other ship because of this bulk, and it will have big rotating engines with the landing gear coming out of them. So, kind of similar to the Chieftain or the Challenger, which both have that were made by Lakon for the Alliance. They were kind of having these rotating engines with the landing gear coming out of them, and they've been wanting to put this ship into the game for 9 years. And I know that because back in the day I made a video about it, and I think 4 years ago I made another video about it, and so that's actually really funny to me. And that the ship has more panel lines than any other ship they've ever done. On the back end of the ship, it will have a cluster of many engines instead of one big one, which really will show that it's a massive ship. And yeah, and I wanted to kind of jump into how big can it actually be? You know, what can we expect realistically in Elite Dangerous? How, like, they can say whatever they want, but how big can it be? And as you can see right now on the screen, you'll see that we have the landing pad, the large landing pad. Now, unless they're going to add a huge landing pad, which they're not going to do because they're not going to overhaul every single asset in the game that uses landing pads. You know, they have to overhaul every town, every city, every station, everything. They're not going to do that. So we can assume that the ship cannot be more wide than 128 meters and more long than 213 meters. And what do we have that comes closest to this? That would be the Beluga liner. Now, funny enough, the Beluga liner is actually a little bit wider than this. It's about 130 meters wide and about 209 meters long and 40 meters tall. And 40 meters is about the max in height. So we cannot expect something bigger than that. But in terms of length, it could probably be around 210 meters long and 125 meters wide, I think. We need to have a little bit of space in between that. Of course, it can't be the exact size of the platform. And then also, because the engines are so big, the bulk of the ship, so actually the chassis, if you will, the fuselage, that will actually be probably 80 meters wide. If you look at the how big the engines are, that's probably going to be like a 20 to 30 meter each on both sides, probably 20 meters or something. So I think it's going to be around 80 meters wide. So technically, in terms of tonnage, we would have a ship that's about 210 meters long and 80 meters wide if we don't account for the engines as being part of that length or width. Now, of course, the Beluga liner has the same issue because the wings are so long uh, on the back. But, you know, in terms of length, I think it'll be on par with the Beluga liner, maybe a little bit bigger. I think they'll probably make it a little bit longer, just a meter or so, just to make it the biggest ship in the game. Because the Beluga liner is actually absolutely freaking massive. But in terms of tonnage, how much could it have? Right? I've heard people say 1,500. I've heard people say 2,000. That's never going to happen because it's not realistic to think that they'll do that in this game because it's just going to be too much, right? It's not going to be balanced. It's going to be ridiculous. So, what I think, if you look at the Type 7, right, it's quite big, only has 300 tons of storage. So, it's not necessarily logical. The way that how big a ship is, how much storage it gets. Not always. In case of Type 7, it's not, right? Because it's a lot bigger than the Python in terms of height and width and like in terms of cubic meters. But for some reason, they have about the same cargo capacity, which doesn't make any sense. So if we look at the Type 9, which is 117 meters long and 150 meters wide and 33 meters tall, and that ship has about, I believe, 794 tons, 800 tons. That would mean that. So yeah, that would mean that the ship would technically have double that, right? But that would be 1,600, which would be way too many, way too much. So in this case, as we said earlier, the size of the bulk of the hull is actually a little bit less than the width of the Type 9, right? So I think personally, if I had to make a guess, I think the car capacity will be 1,000 or 1,200, but not more. It won't, and it might be even 950 or something. It might not even push 1,000 because, well, first of all, it's kind of game breaking if they would, because if you have a ship that, has 1,500 or 1,300 tons in car capacity, that's kind of insane. And next to that, it also has to be worth it in terms of cost, right? Because this ship is probably not going to be more than 200 million to buy, unless it has these capacities, which it could be. But I don't think it will. I think 1,000 to 1,200 tons. Perhaps they'll just stay shy of 1,000. It will still be worth it though in terms of costs. I mean, if the ship will be 150 or 200, you can easily make that money back with that much tonnage. And yeah, and players have a lot of money these days, so I really hope that they can like spend as much money on this thing as humanly possible. That'd be pretty cool. So in terms of hardpoints, I think probably 2 large hardpoints would make sense on this. On the sides, you can kind of see on the sides that it has like 2 slots. I bet those are hardpoints, 2 large ones, and then probably 4 medium ones, 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom. That's what I'm thinking. In terms of utility mounts, 12, 8 or 12. That's what I'm thinking, 8 or 12. Now I'm actually super excited to see what actually comes out, because if I was right on this, that'd be really funny. So whatever. So I mean, the chances are there that it might have the most integrity of all ships, right? Because it is so big and so massive, and so maybe you can make a really cool tank with this, like an actual like ship that cannot die. Like you can just keep hitting it. That'd be really, really interesting. Yeah, but this is all speculation. It does make sense to me, though. I think 1,000 cargo capacity, even though some people might think that that's too little, people will maybe be upset about it. I think it is logical in terms of what we have right now. So if this ship's going to be twice as expensive as the Type 9, it doesn't mean it should have twice the size in terms of cargo capacity. Unless it's going to be 300 million, but then how can it be that much more expensive than a cutter, for example? So it is super exciting. I can't wait till the ship comes out. Seriously, I'm so excited. I really hope you guys are also excited, and hope that you guys like this video. And let's see if this holds true. So thank you guys for watching. My name is MT Major, and I'll see you guys the next time. Cheers.